The quiet countryside village was usually peaceful, but today, the air was thick with excitement. A grand carriage had pulled up to the largest, empty house on the hill. Shalina and her mother watched from a distance as servants carried in endless loads of expensive furniture, velvet curtains, and box after box of toys. "Look at that massive boat," Shalina whispered, her eyes wide. "And that dollhouse, it's bigger than my room." Her mother smiled gently, placing a hand on Shalina's shoulder. "It is a lot of things, darling, but never forget, it does not matter how many toys you have. What truly matters are the friends you have to play with." Inside the grand mansion, however, there was no joy. Mrs. Stewart, the lady of the house, was already unhappy. She looked out the window at the village children playing hopscotch in the dirt and turned up her nose. To her, they were just ruffians. Her children, Frank and Maria, watched the games outside with longing. "Mother, can't we go out? It's boring in here," Frank complained. "Absolutely not," Mrs. Stewart snapped. "We have standards. You are not to mix with those children. Now, wash up." To make up for their boredom, she arranged a lavish picnic for them the next day. The family driver took Frank and Maria to the lake, unpacking a feast of cakes, chocolates, and roast chicken, enough food for 10 people. While the driver guarded the food, the siblings went exploring. Frank, desperate for a little real adventure, tried to climb an old oak tree, but he wasn't used to the rough bark. His foot slipped, and he tumbled down, twisting his ankle badly. Pain shot through his leg, and he cried out. Suddenly, the bushes parted. It wasn't the driver who came running, but the local children, David and Shalina. They didn't laugh at the rich boy. David immediately took off his own shirt, ripping it into strips to bind Frank's swelling foot. They supported him, walking him all the way back to the mansion, ensuring he was safe. When Mrs. Stewart saw them arrive, she didn't see their kindness. She only saw a dirty rag wrapped around her son's foot. Later, she visited David's humble home, holding a brand new, expensive shirt. "Here," she said to David's mother, her voice cold, "to replace the old shirt your son ruined. I don't want to be in your debt." David's mother looked at the expensive shirt and shook her head with a quiet dignity. "That won't be necessary, Mrs. Stewart. My son helped because it was the right thing to do, not for a reward." Mrs. Stewart left, confused and annoyed by people she couldn't buy. As she headed to town for errands, she ignored the neighbors' warnings about the sky turning a bruised, angry purple. A storm was coming. While Mrs. Stewart was away, the weather turned violent. Thunder shook the foundations of the big house. Frank and Maria were alone, terrified, huddled in the hallway. Suddenly, the front doors burst open. It wasn't the wind, it was the village children. "Get inside, everyone!" Shalina shouted. They hadn't run to the safety of their own homes, they had come to save Frank and Maria. Just as they pulled Maria away from the glass, a massive tree branch crashed through the glass, landing exactly where she had been standing seconds before. Throughout the howling night, the electricity failed and the mansion went dark. But Frank and Maria weren't alone. David's mother had arrived with warm broth and blankets. She held the rich children close, just as she held her own, singing soft songs to drown out the thunder. For the first time, Frank and Maria felt the warmth of a real home. When the storm broke the next morning, Mrs. Stewart rushed back, her heart pounding with fear. She found her home damaged, but her children were safe, sitting in a circle with the neighbors, laughing and eating simple bread. "They saved us, Mother," Maria cried, running to her. "Shalina pulled me away from the glass. They stayed with us all night." Mrs. Stewart looked at the humble woman who had protected her children when she couldn't. She looked at David and Shalina, who had risked the storm for friends they barely knew. The walls around her heart finally crumbled. Later that day, Mrs. Stewart walked back to the small cottage, but this time, she didn't bring money or gifts. She brought humility. "Please," she said, her voice trembling, "send your children to the mansion. I want them to play with Frank and Maria. We have a toy room, and—" David's mother interrupted gently. "I don't want my children inside that big house, Mrs. Stewart. I don't want them getting used to luxuries they cannot have." Mrs. Stewart looked down. "Then let my children come out here. Let them play in the garden with you." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "You were right. It's not the expensive toys that make a childhood. It's the laughter and the friends. From that day on, the gates of the mansion remained open. Frank and Maria learned to climb trees, played hopscotch in the dirt, and realized that the richest people in the world aren't the ones with the most money, but the ones with the truest friends.